Professor Carlos, your question, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the 4 presidential candidates who had both the political commitment and the political courage to be part of this conversation. My area of research and expertise is on foreign policy and defense and security, so my first question will be within the rubric of these issue areas. All right. If the Quad were to become a collective security alliance, you, as our country's chief architect of our foreign policy, are you going to make the Philippines as a member of the Quad? Why and why not?
Professor Carlos's question will be addressed to Secretary Norberto Gonzales first.
Well, we will always be part of arrangements like that. And yes, it's important. Dapat lagi kasi may mga kasama tayo kung may mga hiharap tayo mga problema sa mundo. Kaya kailangan, kung may mga arrangements na ganyan, dapat pinapasok natin.
Secretary Gonzales, if you have nothing to add, the other candidates may react to his answer. I think Secretary Ernie Abella.
Yes. The Philippines needs to retain an independent foreign policy, and in which case it needs to be able to dance between the 2 great powers. As we can maintain relationships with them, but not to join, however, because we need to be able to maintain that specific independent stance. We can relate with either one, the other one, but at the same time we need to retain our independence and be able to sustain our own sovereignty. Thank you.
Yeah, but Mr. Abella, remember, you're still linked to the United States of America because of the Mutual Defense Treaty.
That's true.
So the Quad is composed of, well, so-called democracies. And so are you more leaning towards being part of the Quad or some other collective security arrangement?
It's not a question of leading more, but the question of being able to maintain both while maintaining a balance.
Yeah, I have a problem with the concept of independent because it's like you're sitting on the fence. Is that what you mean?
No, I mean to say that we need to be able to make our own stands and be able to make our own decisions without undue influence from anybody.
I don't know that being friends with everybody is foreign policy.
We're not being friends with anybody. We can have trade with the greater power, which is our neighbor. On the other hand, we can maintain MDTs with the people in Quad.
Yeah, well, the reason why, and this is for all the candidates, I asked this question is that right now I'm sure the big powers are trying to carve their own spheres of influence. And because we've always been within the sphere of influence of the United States of America, the Quad is simply an extension of this proposed collective security arrangement.
On the other hand, they will not always, we can always be sure that they will always stand for us.
Well, of course, nobody can answer that question, even if we ask Biden today, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Marcos.
Yes, I think any of these agreements we should, of course, encourage as long as it is very clear to us what is the advantage to the Philippines. What the professor just mentioned was she spoke about the great powers trying to carve out spheres of influence. I reject that model that I believe no longer applies in the geopolitics of the modern world. The old Cold War thinking. We have to ply our own way. And so it really would depend on what is inside, or what those agreements say that the Philippines what will be doing and what those other partners of ours will be doing for the Philippines. And once again, because we shouldn't think of the old Cold War system, we should always think in terms of the fine line that the Philippines has to tread in all our foreign policy decisions.
But if Mr. Marcos, if you reject the concept of spheres of influence, does that mean you're going to scuttle the Mutual Defense Treaty when you become President of the Republic?
By no means.
Linked to the United States of America as a defense ally.
No, by no means. The relationship with the United States, our special relationship with the United States is not something that we can treat, be cavalier about. It is a very important one. And it has stood us in good stead for over 100 years. And that, I think, will never disappear from the Philippine psyche, the idea and the memory of what the United States did for us and fought with us in the last war. And so that is a specific part of our foreign policy. But then as we approach, we know that we are a hot spot right now. The West Philippine Sea is a hot spot in geopolitics right now. And that is why we still have to find our own line. In terms of all of these arrangements, except the one simple principle is that we will not cede 1 square inch of the Philippines to any country.
Karen, do I have time for one more follow-up with Mr. Marcos?
Yes, Professor Carlos.
Yeah. Okay. If that is the stance that you have taken, Mr. Marcos, suppose you have a situation where China is trying to, take us in, embrace us within its sphere of influence. How would you react as our chief architect of our foreign policy?
Once again, in terms of specifically to China, the correct approach still seems to be one of engagement. And no matter what the superpowers are trying to do, we have to work in the interest of the Philippines, and we cannot allow ourselves to be part of the foreign policy of any other country, and we have to have our own foreign policy. So again, whatever the superpowers do, we as a highly strategic geographic are having a highly strategic geographical location in the world, really have to walk that very, very fine line between these great powers who I always say, these are great powers. We are in between. If they sneeze at the same time, we disappear from the map. And that is something that we always have to keep in mind.
Thank you.
Calyodi, we'll hear from you.
Para sa akin talaga ay maiwasan yung lahat yung pakikipagkaisa dito sa mga malaking bansa sa daigdig na ang relasyon ay gagawin tayong parang pawn lang sa mga kanilang mga labanan. Ang aking naiisip talaga ay maging unaligned ang ating bansa sa mga malaking kapitalistang bansa sa daigdig, tapusin yung ating military agreement sa US, yung Mutual Defense Treaty, yung BFA, yung EDCA, at pati yung relasyon natin sa China na dihado tayo. Bakit pagkasundo lamang tayo doon sa mga bansa nagagalang sa ating mga karapatan, sa ating soberanya, sa ating territorial integrity, sa ating mga panuntunan.
Any follow-up questions, Professor Carlos?
Yeah, Mr. De Guzman, kung gusto ninyong non-aligned po tayo, ay saan po tayo tutukod? Alam niyo naman ng ating military yung pinakamahina sa buong ASEAN region. So, ito ba ay aspiration mo lang bilang chief executive? Or is non-alignment, this is still something that will wash in international politics now?
Non-aligned tayo doon sa mga bansa na magagamit lamang tayo sa kailang mga interes. lalo na sa kasalukuyang sitwasyon ngayon na yung China halos at Amerika ay may trade war at nagigirian sila. Huwag na tayong makisangkot sa kanilang girian. Makipag-align tayo sa mga bansa na nagsusulong ng pagkakaisa, kapayapaan at economic ang mas focus ng pagkakaisa at pagtutulungan. At hindi yung papanig sa Amerika o sa China, lalo na sa usapin ng West Philippine Sea na siya ang pinaka mainit na usapin sa ngayon. Magagamit lamang tayong phone ng sino man sa kanila. Kaya dapat makipagkaisa tayo sa mga bansa dito sa Southeast Asian Sea, Southeast Asia, at tayo ay magtulungan para sa ikauunlad ng mamayan. Iwasan natin ang giyera.
Is there any rebuttal from our candidates? I can see Professor Carlos wanted to be part of the debate.
I'm sorry. I hope I'm not dominating the questions, Karen.
No,
You
it's
just
okay.
strike me down, if I need to shut out. Yeah.
Yes, we've budgeted the time. If there are no reactions from the candidates to each other's answers, we are allotting the additional time to follow-up questions from our
Can
panelists.
I just do one follow-up with Mr. De Guzman?
Of course.
Okay. Well, I'm interested in the concept of non-alignment because, I don't know that it's like once upon a time we talked about that. So, sino hong mga bansa kaya ang ating, anong pangalan nila? Ang ating sasamahan? Dahil sinabi ninyo ay sasama tayo sa mga non-aligned countries because most countries have cast their lots with either the United States of America, with Russia, or with PROC. So, saan tayo? Diyan lang ba tayo nakaupo sa bakod?
Ang gusto natin ay hindi dependent, kundi isang independent foreign policy at makikipagkasundo tayo. Hindi naman tayo magpuputol, kundi makikipagkasundo tayo sa mga bansa na re-respeto doon sa ating sovereignty at territorial integrity. Mas ganon at ang mas makakakapit natin sa kasalukuyan, lalo na sa usapin ng West Philippine Sea, ay itong mga Asian country. At yan ang ating makakakampi sa kasalukuyan. At hindi, ayaw ko talaga na pumanig sino man sa kanila, sa Russia, sa China, na nagsusulong lang naman ng kanilang personal na interes at hindi sa interes ng kapayapaan at kaunlaran ng buong daigdig.
Salamat po.
Thank you, gentlemen.